Looks good. All right, so like I said, we're going to start laying down on our mat today. So just kind of taking a comfortable position if you want your legs to be out long, or maybe you bend at the knees and the knees kind of fall together. Whatever is comfortable for you laying down on the mat, just finding that space, that long spine. So if it's more comfortable on your legs that your knees are bent, that's totally fine today. That's where I'm gonna find. But like I said, if you want those legs to be long, or maybe crossed over in that cross position, whatever works for you. And then from here, what I want you to do is just to take one hand and put it on your belly, and one hand and put it on your chest. And all that this is going to help us do is just kind of notice and become aware of our breathing. And notice if the breath is traveling all the way down into the lungs, into the rib cage, or maybe if you're breathing a little bit more shallowly this morning. So just taking a few moments here to become aware of your breath, to become aware of if you're taking maybe shallow breaths, or if you're starting to take a little bit deeper of breaths, letting it travel all the way down into the rib cage for a little bit of expansion this morning. And if you notice that you are breathing a little bit more shallowly this morning, maybe taking a moment to kind of find that expansion through the chest first as you inhale, allowing the lungs to expand, giving them that space in the chest. And then once you've found that, also giving them that space through the ribs, allowing the belly to expand. And really the whole upper body rises up off of the floor as you breathe. And from here, just starting to become aware of how the body is feeling today. So maybe you moved a little bit differently this weekend than you normally do because of the holiday, or maybe you moved a little bit less because of the holiday. And as always, just starting from the top of the head and without any judgment, just noticing how you're feeling, noticing where there is tension, noticing where maybe you're sore or tight this morning. And with that next exhale, allowing any of those points of tension that you find to relax a little bit more deeply into the floor. Maybe it feels good to just let the arms now come to your sides. If you've really become in tune with your breathing at this point. And then I want you to just take 3 more nice deep breaths here, really allowing for a little bit of extra relaxation before we get started, before we get moving, sending that exhale all the way down through the body. When you finish that third exhale, I want you to just go ahead and pull those knees into the chest. Just taking a moment to start to get moving a little bit in just a small range of motion. So maybe moving in little circles, maybe side to side, maybe you roll forward and backward. Just finding maybe a little bit of a massage on the lower back here, and just a little bit of movement through the body. Right, and we're going to start by getting the core warmed up today before we do any spinal twists or anything like that. So from here, I want you to bend those knees and plant those feet right down, about a foot or two out away from the glutes. And then we're just going to start with a little crunch to get our upper core warmed up. So you can either point the fingertips toward the ceiling, or you can bring them around behind the ears. If you have them behind the head, just taking care to make sure that you keep the neck nice and long. And then we're just going to get going with a little crunch, bringing the head and shoulders up off of the floor, and then relaxing back down. So not a huge range of motion here, but finding that exhale with each time you come up towards the ceiling, really warming up through that upper core, warming up through maybe the shoulders if you have them up towards the ceiling. And then as always, trying to keep the neck neutral, like I said, so keeping about a tennis ball size space between the chin and the chest, even as you crunch up. So using the core to come up off the floor and up the neck. We're going to keep moving in this crunch for another 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Go ahead and relax the upper body down to the floor. Now we're going to start moving through those glutes. So same thing, keeping those knees bent and those feet planted. Moving at your pace, we're going to find a couple of glute bridges here. So nice and stable and even, bringing those hips up, little squeeze through the glutes, and then lowering back down. So kind of just waking those legs up, getting them moving, trying to activate through the muscles, finding tension through all the muscles in the leg at the top of that range of motion. Getting them going here. As usual, this feels pretty good after you've been sitting all morning, just kind of to get moving, to get those muscles activated. Don't forget to keep breathing here. Nice, keeping going in this for another 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Go ahead and relax those hips on down to the mat. Next, we're going to get those obliques going. So we've got our penguins. So keeping those feet and those legs right where they are. We're just going to point those fingertips towards the heels. And we want to work down the side of that core. So finding our range of motion side to side. Fingertips point towards the heels. Head and shoulder comes up off of the floor. And then just moving through that range of motion side to side. Bringing each fingertip a little bit closer to either heel. So maybe you don't quite reach. I'm not quite reaching yet this morning. That's okay. But just finding that range of motion, finding that strengthening through the sides of the core, through those obliques. Same thing here, trying to keep the neck nice and neutral. I know sometimes this is where I start to feel a little tension through it, but just keeping that space between the chin and the chest. Keep breathing, keeping going with this for another 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Go ahead, bring it back to center. Relax it down onto the floor. All right, keep it moving by engaging that whole core. Up next, we're going to find some roll-ups. So if you're not quite warmed up and you're not quite ready to do this without any momentum, as always, you're welcome to use those arms for some momentum to come up to seated. But first things first, we're going to find that inhale to bring those arms up overhead. With your exhale, you're going to circle those arms around and sit it up to nice and tall. Nice long spine at the top for that big inhale. And then an exhale, nice and slow, all the way back down. So this down is just as important as the way up, making sure you're resisting gravity. Big inhale at the bottom, exhale to bring it back up. Like I said, if you need that momentum of those arms, feel free to swing them a little bit more forcefully to get yourself up off the floor this morning. And just keeping moving with this, with the pace of your breath. Those inhales to find that long spine or those arms up overhead, and those exhales for during that range of motion. Trying to keep the weight down nice and slow and controlled. So not just letting gravity pull you back down onto the floor. And making sure you find that long spine at the top. So even if it does round out to come up, if you get to the top, just making sure that you lengthen through the spine to come up tall. Couple more of these here. Keeping going with the pace of that breath. Nice deep inhales and exhales. Still allowing for that expansion through the chest, through the rib cage. As you inhale, nice work. Great, we're gonna find 2 more full roll-ups. So if you're up tall, we've got 2 more all the way up and all the way back down. And after that second one, we're gonna meet back down on the floor. You can pull those knees back into the chest, taking just a second to give that core a little bit of a break. And then we're gonna keep going in just a minute. All right, so from here, while we're here in this position, let's find a little spinal twist. So you've got 2 options here. From this position with the knees pulled into the chest, you can set those feet down on one side, taking those arms out long, or you can plant those feet and bring both knees down in one direction, whichever of those feels good for you. And then looking over that opposite shoulder, nice spinal twist here, kind of passive, getting the spine moving through an extra range of motion. With that next big inhale, go ahead and pull those knees through center. Same thing on that other side, either of those two options, looking over that opposite shoulder, finding that spinal twist in the other direction. Nice. Next big inhale, go ahead and bring those knees back to center. And then we're going to take them to a tabletop 90-degree position. So just extending them out just a tiny bit here so that the shins are nice and flat facing up towards the ceiling. Those hands you can use to support out by the sides or under the hips. We're just going to start nice and easy with those bent knee, leg lowers, heel taps. So both legs at once, we're going to go right into it here, bringing the heels down and then back up to that 90 degrees. So down, engaging that lower core and then bringing it back up. Couple of these here just to get that lower core really engaged, to get that lower back really engaged and moving. As always, don't forget to breathe here. Make sure you find that nice big inhale and exhale. Keeping going in this range of motion for about another 10 seconds here. For 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Go ahead, take those knees back up to tabletop. We're going to find another version of our crunch. So from this tabletop, I want you to just extend those feet straight up towards the ceiling. Point those fingertips up towards the toes, and we're going back to that crunch range of motion. So head and shoulders come up off the floor to bring the fingertips closer to the toes, and then back down to relax with that exhale. So same thing, getting moving a little bit here, getting that upper core going, engaging the upper abs as we come up off of the floor. Keeping your neck nice and neutral, like I said. For another 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Okay, we're going to switch it up. We're going to go right into our leg lowers with those long legs. So again, those feet can stay up towards the ceiling. Those hands can be out wide. Or for a little more support, you can tuck them right underneath those hip bones, or the tailbones, excuse me. And then we're just going to get going here with our leg lowers. So bringing those feet down towards the floor and then back up nice and long towards the ceiling. So getting going right into our core work today, getting those hips engaged, getting the lower core re-engaged. Same thing here, don't forget to breathe, nice big inhales and exhales. Keep it moving with this for another 10 seconds. Nice work for another 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Go ahead, pull those knees into the chest. Give it a little break, rocking side to side. And then we're going to give that core a break. We're going to move into some stretching. So however's best for you to get up to seated, go ahead and find that. So maybe you roll yourself all the way up, or maybe you roll onto one side and press up. And then from seated, we're just going to start out in a comfortable seated position for our spinal twists. So either with those legs crossed in, or you can always use that, that long leg for your spinal twist. And same as we normally do, big inhale and center, nice long spine. With your exhale, twisting to one side, bringing that hand around to the outside of that knee, finding that spinal twist. And then we're going to go right into flowing at the pace of your breath. So next inhale brings you through center, and then exhaling to come over in that other direction. Once again, just getting that spine moving a little bit. Making sure you find that long spine every time you come through center. Nice. Keeping going twice more in each direction. When you finish those last four, just coming right back to center. And then we're gonna get moving with just our little upper body flow next. So as soon as you finish those four, go ahead and interlace those fingers, press those palms forward, round out that spine, tuck the chin in towards the chest. With your next big inhale, we're gonna lift up nice and tall, palms up towards the ceiling. Exhale to circle those arms down and around, and you can either interlace or place those hands behind the hips, opening up through the chest, pulling the shoulder blades together with that inhale, and then an exhale to release. So we're gonna flow with our breath a couple of times through here. So just keeping it moving. Inhale, nice long spine. When you exhale, interlace the fingertips, press the palms forward, tuck the chin towards the chest. Inhale to lift up. Exhale to circle down and around. Inhale to interlace and open up through the chest, or place those hands next to the hips and open up. Exhale to release. Just keeping going with that couple more times through. Inhale, long spine. Exhale to round out. Inhale, palms come towards the ceiling. Exhale to circle down. Interlace or place behind the hips. Inhale, open up through the chest. Exhale to release. Twice more just like that. Inhale, nice long spine. Exhale, interlace, press forward, round out. Inhale, palms towards the ceiling. Exhale, circle around. Inhale to lengthen, open up through the chest. Interlace or place behind the hips. Exhale to release. Last time through just like that. Inhale, long spine. Exhale, interlace, press forward, round out through that spine. Inhale to press up, palms towards the ceiling. Exhale, circle around. Inhale to interlace or place and open up through the chest. Exhale to release. All right, we're gonna get the spine moving in some flexion and extension next. So I'm gonna turn sideways just so that you can see, but you're welcome to stay facing the camera if you just want to extend those legs out long. So long legs here, and then just a little bit of space behind you as well. So like I said, we're gonna work on flexion and extension. So flexion of the spine is the rounding in this direction. Extension of the spine is gonna be opening up in this direction. And I know we did this last week with the knees bent, but we're just gonna start moving in these ranges of motion with your inhales and exhales. So the exhale is gonna bring you out into that flexion. What I want you to do is kind of reach out nice and long and then really round out through the spine. So normally when you extend out, maybe you keep a little bit of a long spine, but I want you to open up through the shoulder blades, round out through the spine, really extend out towards those toes. And then with that next inhale, you're just gonna circle those arms around, bring it behind, open up through the chest for that long spine. Inhale, and then same thing, moving forward back into that exhale to round out. Maybe you find a nice stretch through the hamstrings while you're out here. And then an inhale to open up. So now those hands can end up wherever you want them to. So maybe to help with that round out, you just bring them down to the shins and round out almost into that cat pose. Or maybe giving that nice big stretch out towards those toes helps you round out a little bit further. Either of those is fine, but just keeping going a couple of times here with your breath. Keeping moving forward and backward. Getting that spine going in a couple of different directions. Give me 3 more nice deep breaths here. So that's 3 more times in each direction. And when you finish that third, we're just gonna keep it right where we are, seated up nice and tall with those legs out long in front. And then we're just gonna add this to our roll up. So as soon as you get back to center, all we're gonna do is instead of that spinal extension coming out and opening up through the chest, we're gonna roll all the way down to the floor. So again, if you wanna use the arms for that momentum, you're welcome to. We're gonna find a big roll up first. So coming up to seated, and then at the tail end of that roll up, instead of immediately coming right back down, we're just gonna find a nice big stretch out towards those toes, that spinal flexion there, and then coming up tall through center, and then rolling it back down to the mat. So that inhale brings those arms up overhead down on the mat. That exhale rolls us up. We still find that long spine in center, and then rounding out towards those toes to find that spinal flexion here at the tail end. So again, with the pace of your breath here, so if you're moving a little bit slower or faster than me, totally fine. And using that momentum, again, if you need it to come up off of the floor. So sweeping those arms around with a little bit more force. Maybe if you need to bend those knees for that roll up, you're welcome to do that as well. I need just a couple more of these here. And we're gonna find two more full roll-ups and roll back down, and then we'll meet up in that seated position. So two more times all the way up and all the way back down, and then a third time to just bring us back up to seated. When you finish that third roll up and bring it to seated, all we're gonna do is bring it over to hands and knees up next. So we get into our cat and cow first. So swinging those legs around and then bringing it over to our hands and knees, taking a second, taking your time to get here. When you do arrive at hands and knees, feel free to get right into that cat and cow whenever you get there. But making sure that those shoulders come right over those wrists and those knees are right underneath those hips, so we're nice and stable. And then for that cat and cow, same two ranges of motion. Nice inhale for that spinal extension, and that exhale for that spinal flexion. Just kind of getting it going here a couple of times. And with this, also waking up those wrists and those hands. So we're going to move into a little bit of yoga flowing for our down dog and our planks. So making sure that you have pressure through all 10 fingers, making sure that the palms and the wrists are ready to go. From here up next, after your next full inhale and exhale, we're just going to shift into our down dog. So curling those toes under, pressing those hips up and back. Maybe those hands and feet need to be a little bit separated further than where you have them. Make that adjustment if you need to. And then same as always, we're going to spend our first couple of moments here just adjusting to this down dog, this kind of inversion that we have. Maybe you pedal out those heels. Maybe you got a nice little bend in those knees. Just taking a second to do what feels right here. All right, and then we're going to find a little bit more core work next. So we're going to do our down dog to plank flow. So that inhale is going to bring you in that down dog, nice long spine. That exhale is just going to shift the shoulders out over the wrists into our plank. Maybe take just a moment, pause here, and then just keeping going with that a couple of times. That inhale brings those hips up and back, nice stretch. That exhale brings you out into that plank, really engaging that core when you get out there, thinking about squeezing through those abs. Couple of times here, and then I'll give us an option to take it up a notch next. This one is nice because it gets those shoulders a little bit warmed up too. Now from here, if you wanted to take it up a notch, you can add that crossover of that hand So the plank is exactly the same, but then when you push it out into that down dog, one hand comes off the mat and reaches back for that opposite leg, placing it down, and you come back out into plank. Just a couple of times here. I'm going to change it up a little bit differently next. So if this doesn't feel quite right, just staying in that down dog to plank flow. All right, so wherever you are, find 2 more of these. So if you're lifting those hands, 1 more for each hand. If you're keeping it steady, just twice more out and back up, and then bringing it up to that down dog to meet there. And then our way that we're going to take it up a notch, this time we're going to keep those hands planted, but we're going to move almost in a half mountain climber range of motion. So we're going to do a 3-legged dog to half mountain climber. We'll stay all on one leg for 10 reps, and then we'll do that other leg. So my right leg is going to come up and back into my 3-legged dog. With my exhale, when I shift out into that plank, the knee is going to come out between the elbows, and then I'm going to extend back up. So we've got 10 on this side. I've got 9 more if you're keeping pace with me here. And I want this to be nice and slow and controlled, so it doesn't have to be fast to be effective. 7. I've got 6. 5. When you finish those 10, you can just get right into that opposite leg, or if those wrists need a little break, you can drop those knees and give them a roll or 2. I've got 2 more of these on this side. I'm going to give my wrists a tiny break before I switch it up, and then I'm going to get going on that other side. So, like I said, I'm just going to take a second. If you're ready to keep moving, just switch those legs and keep it going on that other side for those 10. If you took that little break, whenever those wrists feel good and you're ready to bring it back up, we've got that 10 on that other side, same thing. Now, if you finish those 10 on that other side, you can, once again, either take that little break, or maybe you just start alternating until we finish out and meet back in that child's pose. I've got 6 more on this side. So keeping it going with that breath wherever you are. And when you finish, like I said, if you want to take a second to alternate those legs until we meet, we're just going to meet in that child's pose. I've got 1 more, and then I'm going to bring it down. We're going to take about 10 seconds. If you're not quite ready for a break, if you want to keep it going, you're welcome to challenge yourself and keep moving through this 10-second break. If you need it like I do, maybe you grab a drink, maybe you roll those wrists out, taking a moment to recover if you need it. Nice. All right, we're going to keep going, make sure that we fit a little bit of yoga in today. So I want you to curl those toes under, lift those hips, press them up and back, down dog one more time. Don't worry, we won't be here for very long. We're going to transition right out into our lunge. So right foot comes up and back, 3-legged dog. And then same as you did before, shift that knee forward, but this time we're going to plant those feet forward here. So we're going to start here with a nice chest stretch. Depending on your stability today, you can keep that back knee up for a little more challenge. If you're feeling a little unbalanced and you want to drop that back knee down to the mat, feel free to. From this position, all we're going to do is find that stability and lift those arms up, bring that chest up nice and high, and find that nice upper body stretch here. Finding this balance for another 5, 4, 3, 2. Next big exhale, go ahead and fold those hands back down. Switching legs, so lifting those hips up, bringing that right foot back to meet the left, down dog very briefly. Same thing on that other side, 3-legged dog. Left foot comes up and back. We sweep that foot forward. This time we plant it down in that lunge. Once again, that back knee can stay up, or you can rest it down with your next big inhale, sweeping those arms up. Finding that chest opener here, opening up through the front side of the body. For another 4, 3, 2, next big exhale, fold it forward, bring those hands down, bring it back one more time into our down dog. Those hips come up, that foot scoots back to meet the right. We're gonna bring it back out. This time we're gonna find our warrior poses. So right foot comes up and back, three-legged dog. Sweeping it forward to find that planted foot. This time, instead of bringing it into our crescent, we're gonna turn that back heel down. So we're gonna bring it up into our warrior pose. Sweep those arms up and open. Right foot comes forward, right arm comes forward, left arm comes back, opening up through the chest. Nice bend through that front knee. We're gonna reverse our warrior, so flip that front palm, next big inhale, bring it up and back. Exhale, bring it back out to warrior 2. Extended side angle up next, in the tree so you can see me. Extended side angle up next. So same as our triangle, what I want you to do is start to reach out forward as far as you can, hinging those hips. From here, bringing that hand down towards the floor. So I like to float. It brings a little bit more of a challenge. If you have the floor, you can here, or you can bring the elbow down. And then that opposite arm comes up over top. Nice big stretch through the side of the body here. Our extended side angle, a little bit of a challenge to hold it here. Feeling it through my right leg. With your next big inhale, bring those arms back up, warrior 2. And then we're gonna cartwheel them all the way down. So right arm comes down, cartwheel that left arm down, left heel comes up. Bringing it back into our downward dog. So bringing that right foot back to meet the left. Same thing on the other side, three-legged dog. Left foot comes up and back, we sweep it forward. Planting it there, bring that back heel down. Cartwheel those arms up, warrior 2. Lengthening from fingertip to fingertip. Finding that bend through that front knee. Reversing our warrior, flip that front palm, next big inhale, up into peaceful. Next exhale out to center. Extended side angle, so first hinging forward at those hips, reaching out forward, and then we're cartwheeling down. So again, this arm can be here, this elbow can rest on this knee, or you can bring the hand down to the floor. That arm comes up over top, nice big stretch here in this direction. A little bit of a challenge holding that knee bend. Next inhale, go ahead, bring it up, warrior 2. Exhaling to cartwheel all the way down. Turn that back heel up, bring that left foot back to meet the right. All right, taking a second here, and then we're going to step or jump those feet forward to meet the hands. Finding our forward fold. Taking a moment in this forward fold, maybe you have a slight bend in those knees, maybe it feels good to find that opposite elbow with that opposite hand. A little bit of a ragdoll position, letting the head and shoulders relax. If you found that opposite elbow, go ahead and release those fingertips towards the floor. Next inhale, we've got our halfway lift, our long spine. So bringing those hands just slightly up, flattening through the spine. Exhale to fold forward. We're gonna do that just 2 more times. Next inhale, halfway lift, flat back. Exhale to fold forward. 1 more time into our halfway lift. Inhale, flat back, long spine. Exhale, fold forward. This next inhale, you're gonna roll it all the way up to standing into our mountain pose. So nice and controlled, bringing it up to our mountain. So for mountain, bringing those feet about hip width distance, so right underneath those hips. Those palms can face forward and in towards your sides. The shoulders are nice and relaxed. The spine is nice and long all the way out through the top of the head. Now from here, we're gonna finish out with just a little bit of balance. We're gonna move into our tree pose today. So if you need to readjust it all before we get into that, I'm gonna give you all the options. But we're gonna start with that right foot. So first option for that right foot is gonna be to use it as a tripod so those toes stay on the ground. Second option, the foot comes up to the calf. Third option, it comes all the way up to the thigh. Just making sure in that tree pose that that foot does not land on your knee. So if it's on the knee, lowering it or lifting it a little bit. We're going to take a couple of moments in this. So as you find your balance and you get into this, just taking time to find your breath, find your core strength. If you fall out of this, taking your time to come back into it. We're going to find a couple of breaths here. Options for the hand. If out wide helps you have your balance, that's awesome. Maybe you pull those palms in towards center. Maybe for a little extra challenge, you extend those branches up and bring your gaze up towards the ceiling. Once again, just taking a couple of nice deep breaths in whichever of those feels right, keeping that core strong. As we release, it's going to be a nice slow progression. So with your next inhale, extending that spine a little bit longer. With your exhale, we're just going to bring the foot away from the leg. So just letting it release away from the leg. And then I want you to pull it in towards center. So pulling that knee back into face front. Extend that leg long and then sweep it down to meet the other one, bringing your weight back between those 2 feet. Now taking a second if you need to, maybe shake out that standing leg, give it a minute. We've just got one more side to go. We've got about 2 minutes, which is perfect. So same thing on that other side. You've got all those options, just making sure that that foot doesn't land on the knee. So you can use that tripod. You can bring that foot up to that calf. If you're feeling good on your balance today, throwing that foot up to that inner thigh. But as always, taking the option that's best for you, finding that nice strong core. And maybe this side feels a little bit different than the other. Totally fine. Taking a couple of breaths. Again, you've got all those options for the arms, wherever they need to be. Couple more moments here. If you come out of it, coming back into it one more time. Again, we've got that slow progression down. So with that next inhale, a little bit of extra length through the spine. With your exhale, just taking your foot away from the leg, bringing that knee back to center, lengthen that leg, and then go ahead and sweep it down to meet. All right, taking a second, shake out that standing leg if you need to. Awesome work. Whew. All right, we're just gonna finish out with 3 nice deep breaths. The last one we will find our bow and our namaste. We're just gonna lead with those arms for those 3 breaths. Big inhale, arms come out and up. Exhale, arms come down and around. 2 more. Inhale out and up. Exhale down and around. Last one, those palms are gonna meet in the center overhead. Inhale out and up. Palms come up to meet. As you exhale, pull them down to heart center. As always, thank you so much for sharing your Wednesday with me. The light in me honors the light in you. Bowing as we say, namaste.